Hi everyone, my name is Dee Roussel, also known as Deja, and today we're going to talk about some books that I recently read. So the first time that I actually filmed a recent reads, those books in that video were not the best. They were all just kind of meh experiences, or they were just not like books that I vibe with. But I have to say that the books I'm going to talk about in this video are definitely better ones. I think all of them besides one has been a 4-star reading experience, which I'm super happy about. So without further ado, let me get into this video. The first book that I read was Clapback by Nella Hopkinson. This is part of the Amazon original short story things that they're doing, and this one was a series of like the Black speculative work. And this one is actually the one that I rated the lowest. I think this one was more of like a 3-star, 3.5-star experience. After reading this book, I'm still not entirely sure like what I read. Like I know it has some like hoodoo elements to it, or at least that's what I think the magical practice was in this story, but I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure it's hoodoo. And because the story is so short, I didn't really have any strong opinions towards it. I actually had to read it twice because I wasn't really sure like what I was reading, and the second time that I read it, I listened to the audio that came with it. I don't think the story left any impact on me. I thought it was a unique idea, but I'm still not entirely sure that I really like connected with the story. And it just follows this art student, I want to say, who puts on this presentation. But in another storyline, it has this rich woman who creates a product that makes people say like different phrases, but then it gets out of control and like the woman goes bankrupt. But like I guess this art student is able to control it. I don't know what it was about the story that just didn't really connect with me. I feel like it did have like an interesting premise, but I feel like that's all it was for me, just an interesting premise. Like I'm not sure that the execution for me was the best. But yeah, I would definitely say still try this one and see how you vibe with it, because I know other people have enjoyed it, but this one just did not leave a lasting impression on me. The next book that I read was Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and I really do have respect for this author for writing this book. I haven't read a book by this author before, but I really did like the fact that he was focused on like urban youth. I feel like the character voice in this one was just very strong, and I really like that he focused on like just things that urban youth would really have to like think about. And I really did enjoy listening to this audiobook and having all of these people affected by gun violence come and speak to him and like just try to debunk that myth that like you need like an eye for an eye. And I really did appreciate that like it wasn't really like explaining anything about like urban youth. I feel like since you were just like in this character's head, like it was just innate. Like you didn't have to explain anything to like a white audience who wouldn't maybe know any of these like outside factors that are coming in. It was just kind of like all these people who are just in this world were just speaking to him in a way that he can understand it, and I feel like the author really did a great job with that. This is definitely a book that I would recommend to like so many of like my cousins and stuff, so I definitely appreciated this one and I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read is The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn, and this is actually the book that I have enjoyed the most. And this one follows Joy, who is in love with her best friend Malcolm for like the longest of times, and she gets invited to go on a trip with Malcolm, and I want to say her name is Summer. I think that's the girl's name, but she gets invited to go on a trip with Malcolm and Summer and another guy named Fox, who is Summer's best friend. But while they are on this trip, Fox and Joy decide that they're going to fake date to see how Malcolm really feels about Joy, because Fox doesn't really think that Malcolm really likes Summer and that he has a thing for Joy. And so Fox and Joy start fake dating, but then of course it starts getting like more serious between them. I really just enjoyed the characters in this relationship. Joy and Fox were just, I just really like their dynamic, especially in the beginning where Fox just kept giving all of these like one-word answers, and then like Joy was just like all sunshine and just kind of doing her own thing. And then when they were like fake dating, I thought that was like really cute. So I think that the grumpy sunshine kind of trope really does work for me, or at least it does in this instance. This book also has asexual rep, which I can't speak to because I'm not asexual. But I will say that I feel like sometimes it did get a little info dumpy. It was just a little bit, so it didn't really take off from my experience. But I feel like she was just trying to explain it too much. And maybe like people actually do have to do that a lot. And honestly, like in the instances that it happened, it was really probably important because they were getting intimate with each other, and or at least one time they were getting intimate with each other, and then another time I feel like it was just kind of, I don't know. But there's just like so many of those instances where she had to like set her boundaries, which I'm not mad about, but it just kind of went on kind of like a, not a rant, but I feel like it just kind of got it to a point where it was just kind of explaining things for the reader and not necessarily just explaining things for this character to another character to set her boundaries. But I could be wrong about that because, as I said, I'm not asexual, and I still overall really enjoyed the novel, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next one I won't talk too much about because I did a live show about it with Courtney at Tangible Reads, and this book is I Thought My Soul Would Rise and Fly. And this one I actually really enjoyed too. This book is part of the Dear America series, which I did not even realize was a series until like I just found this book online, and me and Courtney talked about it a little bit. I overall really enjoyed it, and if you want to hear more detailed thoughts about like what I thought about it, I will link that live show down below. But I rated this book 4 stars. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about in this video is Razor Blade Tears. I listened to this book on audiobook, which I think is definitely the way to go. And I feel like this one I purely enjoyed because it was a fast-paced mystery thriller, and the character voices were like just spot on. The narrator of this book had like amazing like character voices, and like I feel like that just made the book for me. And there was just some things that I just had to laugh out loud at because it just, I don't know, just like the way that it was phrased was just so funny to me. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I rated this one 4 stars, and it would have been higher, but there was like a few things that I did have problems with. So the first one is like just kind of teaching about racism. One of the characters, Buddy, was like a lower class white person, and he had like some racist tendencies or just like some biases. And I feel like Ike was really just kind of there like teaching him sometimes about like what to say and what not to say. And granted, sometimes like Ike was just like looking at him like all weird, and like he didn't have to say anything, and Buddy got like a little defensive, and like those dynamics were fine. But then there was just like other times that it was just like he had to explain it to him, and I just wasn't really into that. I feel like I'm just getting to this point where I'm just like, I don't want people to have to explain something to the reader. And I know that in these books, I know they're explaining it to another character that has these biases, but I don't want to read that, like, because then it just takes me out of the story a little bit. Then I'm just like, this wasn't for me, and I don't know, like it was fine, but I just didn't really like the explaining aspect of that. And I didn't really like think about this until I watched Jess on YouTube, and they were talking about how they didn't really like the whole storyline of how cis heterosexual people treated their LGBTQIA plus people in their lives. And it really got me thinking about like this story, because this one does also follow that storyline too. This story follows 2 homophobic fathers trying to get revenge on their 2 sons' deaths because they were murdered. And I can't speak to like how like LGBTQ plus people might like react to that, but it did really get me thinking. And I have to say that it did take me out of the story a little bit, like after I watched that video by Jess on YouTube. I don't know where the line is with trying to give people these like redemption arcs, but also like centering LGBTQ people. So yeah, I'll just leave that there because I can't speak to that experience, and I can't like speak on like how people should feel about that, but I did want to just bring that up. I think the last thing that bothered me was just the person who was found out to be the killer. I really don't know how I feel about this. I feel it's kind of yucky to me, and I wasn't really a big fan of it. I don't know what it was about it, but I just feel like the whole problem was them being LGBTQIA. And I do know that for people on the spectrum and just any marginalization in general, like they are usually targeted and maybe harmed because of how they identify. But this whole thing where the person who did it was just trying to hide a secret, it just rubbed me so wrong. And I don't want to take off stars or anything because of that, because I know it could happen. And there's a lot of shady stuff that happens in the US, but I don't know. I think where I will just land with this is just, if you are on like the spectrum or you just need like some kind of content warnings, I would definitely look them up, because it was just a lot of homophobia, and like just the characters that you're supposed to root for still have like their biases, and they're just kind of learned. So I feel like it just decentered the LGBTQ plus IA people and really centered like these fathers and their redemption arc. And depending on like how you feel about that, I would definitely look that up. But overall, I gave this 4 stars because it was like a thrilling read, I guess, and I really did like the character voices. But yeah, definitely check those content warnings if you need them. But that wraps up all of the books that I have for this recent reads, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know like your favorite books for the last few weeks or so, and let's leave a clapping emoji for clap back, I guess, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.